Qondisani nisamkele ngoba size ngoxolo. Qondisani ngoba thina size ngocela ngofunda. Sicela iyeza, sicela ichiza, sicela ingcambu. Qonqo samkele sizezihlele.
I am a person who was gifted to work with clay, and which is something very, very important, because as I have grown to be one would say I'm a clay artist, or I think I found different people finding themselves saying that I'm a clay healer.
Sithi sicela udongo, sicela ichiza, sicela ingoma, sicela impilo, sicela unyulu, sihlambe.
My name is Andile Dyalvane. NdinguJola umphankomo uqengeba umzulane wenkwakwa unci. Uvukuza umbethe. Mpondomise e. Ndizalwa emabheleni kogudu kolanga kokhuboni. So what I've just mentioned now is basically my lineage. The people that gave birth to me or gave birth to them and so on. So it's all my ancestors. I come from the Eastern Cape, a small village called Ngobozana, a small district called Qobo-Qobo, Emadamini. This is in the countryside in the southern Africa, inland. A very beautiful landscape, beautiful mountain, grassland, and beautiful rivers and valleys. And this is where I was born, and this is where I grew up. And this is basically where most of what I know now, and when I was a child, introduced to my ancestors and groomed by my villagers, by the women of the village, my mother, my aunt, and so on, the elders in the village. And most of my rite of passages, milestones in the growing, also I've experienced and received there. As a young boy growing up with my siblings and the other young boys in the village, you know, looking after the livestock, this was the best time ever, because this is the time where we had an opportunity when the stock is grazing, then we start hunting, find berries and find some roots to eat and sustain ourselves. And while we're doing that, so we had sought all sorts of games, because this is such a beautiful landscape where you can slide down the hill and find yourself in this stream where you find yourself in this beautiful clay. This was something that I think the ancestors and even the elders, having watched and observed me, they knew that my time spent there, which I would spend more than other kids and other boys in the river playing and really finding all of these things in the riverbanks. So they would let me be, because this is the time I feel that this was when maybe the spirit of the ancestors and were sort of like whispering all sorts of things in my ears as a way of grooming me to be maybe who I am now. I have to create an atmosphere when I come to the studio. I come in and then I burn in purple. Travel from home, you carry certain energies which can be a bit unsettling. So I need to be able to put a certain kind of sound that has a certain frequency that will come and perhaps evoke these ideas to come back. Then I start sort of like meditate on the intention of the day, intention of what it is that I have to do. And then I start announcing and just calling on the spirit of my ancestors who gifted me these visions, and that's what I do. So when I make my pieces, first of all, I had mentioned that I sketch a lot, and that sketchbook is basically a bank of all the ideas that have come through. So it's very, very part and parcel of what I do. That sketchbook then stays with me, next to me when I'm gonna start making. And because drawing and movement and sketching is part of what I do, you will find that the walls, surfaces, most surfaces in the studio, they have all the different markings of the pieces that I'm currently working on. Then secondly, I had learned all these different techniques from coiling, pinching, slip casting, press molding, and so on and so on. And each one gives you different finishes. But the one that really speaks to me is the coiling technique. Why that is so important for me, or at least I'm more drawn to it, is because it's so involved. So the clay itself, it feels like I'm able to express myself and move with it as I'm forming these objects. I sort of like immerse myself in it and start moving, and then with the rhythm of the sound, that is important to be part of as well. So I start my pieces upside down, the widest part into the base, closing it, shape it. If there has to be any legs or any additional foot, I will shape that and carve it until it's nice and firm. Flip it, clean it up. It doesn't matter what shape I make or I aim to make, they all start in a circular form. The circle is a basis of the strength of the piece. The circle is the basis of the movement itself as I'm turning and creating this circular motion. I would work basically from the sketch or the idea that I have, but depending on what maybe the sound of music I'm playing sometimes, then I'll work with freeform. It may guide where this clay wants to go. The clay itself is able to do that as well, because sometimes I've learned to let go, and that's what makes my work, and I quite like that, being able to just let the clay do what it wants to do, and then from there, then I work from what it wants it to do, so it guides the process as well. So in that way, it gives one a unique object, but then you can sense the energy of the maker. In this case, when I move, that guides this piece, that guides this object. I think when I then enrolled in 1996 at College of Cape Town, which is in the township in Gugulethu, for me, fresh from the Eastern Cape, this was totally a mind-blowing world. Any idea that I have, I can realize it, because if I can draw it, then I can make it. That's what I say. What was so beautiful for me, in that first week, they gave us a sketchbook, and that was supposed to last us for maybe 6 months. I finished it in a week because I couldn't believe that I'm given permission to just draw anytime and every time, you know. And I was lighting up, because now I was really doing what I love, what I'm meant for. I chose ceramics because it reminded me of my childhood, of where I come from. Because when I started touching clay, I started remembering and smelling, home, first rains, the river, the mountain, the forest, the wet, damp forest. In the community that where I come from, we've got this notion of Ubuntu, right? Which is you are raised by a community. Your parents, they're not the only parents. The greater community village is what guides and molds and shapes you to be a contributing member of that community. So when they see what I'm doing, and they've seen what I'm doing, now they celebrate because they benefit from that as well. So that's how they celebrate, they see, they respect, because there's a certain contribution that I'm doing in the community in that way. This is something very important for anyone to be able to watch the young ones, to guide them and see what gift they have and guide them and expose them into as much as possible to steer them in a direction of blossoming into the purpose of what they are. So I was fortunate in that sense. Welcome. This is Miso Ceramics. 18 years we've been here in this space. We're using this space as our studio. We're invited to take a space here. The whole idea of this complex, they call it a theater in retail, whereby whatever that you see to buy, you can see it being made. So the connection of the maker and the consumer, and then you can interact with it. This is one of the classics of the scarified collection. Also, so we've got this scarified motif that you see here, and then found objects that create like sort of an imprint. I was taught to make sure every mark that I make has an intention, so you're not just making a mark for the sake of it. So there's a very well considered movement of line and negative space and whatnot. So if you're looking at this piece itself already, it's like, I mean, it's like one of my favorites actually.
Working with him has been challenging because he's come into this world at a very different pace than mine. And so there is a dance between us that is only what we can achieve working together, and we dance with others, and that is our story with others as well. But it's been one that has grown us to be limitless in our capacity, and also to grow our understanding of what it means to be a human being, to touch, because everything we touch also touches us. And so humanness touches us, and we touch that way of being, and we are very grateful for that. And so we're all in this union of walking together, which I always say, and this union of doing better for the greater good.
So 2006, we established Miso Ceramics together with Zizi Poposwa. We have grown to have a voice, a much more bigger, deeper voice. Zizi, for instance, she started maturing and growing, and her angle at this moment, it's about embracing and empowering the voice of Black women, to be specific, and women in general. As the pieces kept on being realized and surfacing, we started creating a circular formation in order for us to create like a way of gathering, because this is how, when in the village people come together, they sit in a circular formation, and in that way it becomes a ceremony that is passing an energy flow throughout everyone, and be center, be the part where all the offerings and everything that are. And so that became part of energizing the pieces as they coming through. And this is then where we started talking about bringing these works to the village. And one of the vision that came through at that time while making this work was that we need to create clay vessels that were inspired by the one that I gifted to my father about 13 years ago, that time, to gift each and every homestead in the village in Ngobozana, where I come from, as a way of igniting this memory, remembrance, as a way of bringing hope, because this is again during the time where people are like really losing hope, because so much that they were losing to the pandemic and so on. But the energy of the work needed to go there to be able to bring the hope, energize people, really rejuvenate their spirit and energy. So we had all these 100 pots going to the village, and having the villagers themselves partake in smoking, blackening them, that is, as a way of again bringing back a lost memory, very ancient to them, because none of them have ever seen me making these vessels. Yes, they know what I do, but this is the first time that they get to participate in what I do, and having them experience the work that they contributed in raising me, in grooming me, in order for me to be able to share who we are and what we do. Other vision that came through at that time was that one of the stools was to offer it and place it at my ancestral grave site, which is in the ruins. So this now is a place where my family and all the villagers were forcibly moved by the apartheid government, the message that came through was to place this stool, which the one that was chosen was Umalusi, which is a shepherd. And we created a sort of like a platform to place it over that in this ancestral gravesite as a way of saying that all that they could not achieve due to the oppression and the displacement and forcefully moved, I and many others, we here to say we are here to continue where they've left off. This gesture was paying homage to all the First Nation people all over the world who were displaced. And so it was not only just for my family or not only for Ngobozana, but for everyone. What we did was really to energize that in order for the frequency and energy of that gesture to perhaps touch those who receive it.
Using clay as one of the most ancient technologies that our ancestors have used, Umkhulu has been able to harness that energy, not only just in a symbolic way, as he has shown us here with his symbols, but also in a material and physical way. So the works that he had created with Itongo then were a way of encapsulating that energy and storing it, not only for us who are here now in this generation to remember, but also for generations that are to come, to know that we have a very beautiful cosmology that once we reconnect with it, we can be able to bring about harmony in how we live our lives and also how we can create a harmonious relationship with the planet.
My work has evolved quite a bit in the sense that I think in the beginning, if I take it just when I started at the studio where I was working, I was only decorating, meaning I was painting on the surfaces of already made pieces. Over time, that's when then I went to university where I started trying to find my own voice now, building the actual forms that speaks to me. Really at that time, trying to connect with my people, with myself, with my heritage through these artifacts. So that brought about, because there were reinterpretation of beer pot, meat platters and so on in clay. So the scale was within the same sizes of those pieces, which were much more, yes, functional in a sense that you can use some of these things. Some of them were functional in a way that they were more decorative. Body scarification is the ukachula, which is the tribal markings that you find used in a lot of tribes in Africa. I then use this marking on the surface of the clay when it's still leather hard, where I create this incision, pushing it from the inside to create this wound-like, beautiful, clean incision inlaid with red. Wherever I am, I take in environment and blend in and adapt from the information that I receive from this forms, shapes, landscape, beat, sounds of that place. I get to translate them into this object. Then I was invited by Friedman Bender, a gallery in the United States, through Southern Guild. And then what they said that we would like to make you large-scale ceramics, and they were specific, say, ceramic furniture. Some may call it one of the breakthrough in my career for this prestigious gallery from the States. So they said, we will give you a solo show. I had to put everything on hold and focus only on that exhibition for 6 months. So I started making these clay stools. I titled it Kamagu because Kamagu, to begin to break that down, is an expression of gratitude in isiXhosa, the language. It's an expression of acknowledgement. It's an expression of, I see you, I am grateful. So I had to honor and be grateful and share the gratitude and express that I am grateful that you supported me to be where I am now. I had to travel home to do a ceremony, call the whole village and share this good news. The villagers raise you, your family raise you. They want you to be this contributing member of this community. So if you fail, they feel they failed themselves as well. But if you succeed, just as well, everyone celebrate. So this piece actually, there were 3 of them, part of an exhibition that was called Communion, umlisela nomthinjana, meaning basically everything that we do today is for those who are yet to come, and for now, the kids, anything that we do, it's basically imparting the knowledge system from the past to now for the next generation to come. In fact, if you're looking at most of the pieces that are here, there's so much precision, so to say, like, very sophisticated lines and form, like really sort of like a clean detail, where I was like really trying to control the clay itself and the form and just work with the piece and then move into this piece. This was like now when I was really starting to work with the clay and just, like a lot of movement and gestures to brush and found objects, which this piece was made when I was at Leach, where I used some of the found old shad, they may be 100 years old, because that's when that place was established, and embedded them here. So as a way of collaborating with the masters who have gone, and that's basically what this piece, and then slowly from this, the work started, like really being free up to the gestures of the form, and then more like natural forms, like Ngobozana, as I would say right now. So this is, going to that direction. I think as an artist in the beginning, I think it's one of the challenging things is to be able to find a unique voice that express who you are. Yes, I had to find myself going through that as well, because I had to accept that I'm a student, I'm inspired. And so when you are a student, you're inspired, you ought to somewhat reflect and mimic your teacher perhaps. The other thing is to be able to, as an artist, to being able to let go of your creation, because sometimes you can spend so much time in creating, birthing this. Little did you forget that it's not for you. By letting go, you're making room for the next one to come true. I had moments where I'm like, I don't want to let go of this piece. But now, yes, freely, because I know it's medicine. If it was not for, which at least these days, we are able to say, this is for you, you can have it, because we know what is going to evoke. So that we evoke is off. It happened many times where you work on a piece or a body of work and pack it in the kiln. And then when you open that kiln, everything is shattered, and that is painful. But there's a lesson there too. What lesson is that in life that you can apply is that in this life we forge and dream and plan, do all these things, and sometimes they don't come true, sometimes they fail. But what ceramics, or this practice that I'm in, teaches me to, when all has shattered, all you have to do, pick up the pieces and start afresh. For the future, we have planned and we are planning and we are working on reviving the school where I went as a child, as another way of giving back, imparting the wealth of connections that was fueled by the gesture of the community itself grooming us. We established a foundation, the Kamagu Foundation, which then will service, or at least will share and revive different charities in our homelands. I have experienced in the beginning, people will walk into our Imiswa gallery and there's many beautiful objects there, but they will either be drawn to this one particular piece. 3-4 times I witnessed people either they cry, just tears, and I didn't know what to make of this. And then some, they're like, whoa, this is amazing. And then this one particular person said, there's too much beauty. And then they couldn't take it, then they moved. So And now as time goes by, I started realizing what this means. Each and every piece that I create, it carries a message, not for me, but for the viewer. So now, what these pieces tend to do, I'm only just a conduit, a vessel that channels these messages, but I freeze them like in this object. When you are drawn to that piece, that means it's meant for you. So what you may not understand is the energy that is resonating to you. You don't know how to comprehend it. Either then you're going to be so emotional because it evokes some maybe childhood memory or something, and that's perhaps why these one were crying or saying so much beauty. They couldn't find a rightful word to explain this feeling. When I realized what these pieces carry, these messages, these energies, that's where we had to intention. We pray that whatever message that comes up, let it be the healing one, perhaps. Let it be the one that guides. Let it be the one that help one to reimagine themselves or to rebuild themselves or their courage, so to say, than anything that destroy. So the intention of the messaging to the work, it's what we would like people to feel, see, experience, without me guiding or prescribing what they should feel.